There were a lot of media screw-ups this week.
To say the least, here via Skype to discuss them all, or at least the highlights. We can't discuss them all, but we'll hit some of the highlights. We've got Katie Halper, host of the Katie Halper Show and co-host of Useful Idiots, a Rolling Stone podcast, and a wonderful, wonderful friend of the show. So, I mean, this whole week essentially is all about media failures, starting with the report that Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren that a woman can't be president, which all was just sourced to basically Elizabeth Warren, so one source, but they never indicate it's a he said, she said at best, which is very charitable given the respective records of these two politicians and their relationship to the truth. But after the debate, when Elizabeth Warren refused to shake the outstretched hand of Bernie Sanders, there was a particularly interesting take that caught my eye, and I know it caught your eye as well, Katie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this was, of course, from Virginia Heffernan, who has written a lot about Hillary Clinton being like a shining light. She really has this, I would say, kind of pathological over-identification with certain candidates. And here, of course, she has this with Elizabeth Warren. And as you guys said, it's a he said, she said moment that the media has been presenting as if it's a sourced story to four people. Now, anyone who's saying that what happened, the only people who were there, as your viewers know, were Bernie and Warren, right? And then there are people who Warren told the story to. So no one's questioning, though, whether or not Sanders is telling the truth. Obviously, they're kind of in the debate, they took it for granted that she was telling the truth and he wasn't, which, as you said, Crystal, is weird given their respective records. I kind of think maybe Sanders told her that he didn't think a Native American could win, and that's what made her upset. That's my theory. Just kidding, because he would never say that, and he actually cares about stuff like the Dakota Access Pipeline, unlike Warren. But so there was this beautiful unintentional piece of performance art. And it was this Virginia Heffernan op-ed at the LA Times. Elizabeth Warren brushed off Bernie Sanders and taught a masterclass in handling sexism.
Right.
And she says, some of the language, though, was amazing. We know this stock male move. Come on, baby, give me a hug. We're still friends.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, God. That makes me cringe in my heart.
Is to weaponize this, and we're going to talk about another instance, and put it in the bucket of some kind of like a bad relationship or even like a Me Too or kind of assault. She talked about how Elizabeth Warren wouldn't let him touch her, as if a handshake. We're talking about a handshake, like a professional piece of civil decorum. That's what we're talking about, a handshake.
And at the same time, you have Chris Cuomo from CNN basically weighing in with the same idiotic take. Let's take a listen to what he actually said.
But saying that a woman can't be president. Well, a woman isn't president right now.
A woman hasn't been president.
A woman has not been president.
A woman couldn't be.
But you don't know the context of the conversation.
100%. We don't know the context.
Yeah, right.
But I'll tell you what's interesting to see is people saying, we have no idea what was really said. Wait a minute.
Right. You don't.
You got a woman who's also a U.S. senator who's telling you what was said. Since when do we hear women saying what happened and we say, well, we can't believe it, it's just her?
She's telling you, Katie. She told you what happened. You have to believe her. That's it.
I mean, it's almost cute to watch the Fredo try to put things together, like the idea of Me Too and believe women and apply it. Like, I think he genuinely doesn't really understand. He's like, wait, we're supposed to believe women. Okay, this woman said something. One guy is saying something else, another one. Oh, yeah, believe women. Okay, right. We have to believe her. I think that you could see his eyes moving, like his brain, his very like kind of Neanderthal brain was like making motions within his skull, causing his face to contort. But what's funny is that this view, and this lays it out so plainly, it's like, guys, this is not a Me Too issue. These are two people who are equally powerful, and there was a consensual exchange of dialogue, and it's so dismissive and weaponizing and trivializing of actual Me Too and believe women movements, and it's disgusting, and it's really does a huge disservice to both of those things and to feminism in general. And also, with Virginia Heffernan's thing, why I just think that these people need to work out their issues with men, and I know that sounds kind of reactionary and conservative, sorry, but this is not about boundaries and touching. This is about Warren, and what's really sexist and infantilizing is the idea that Warren is not a rational actor who is a political calculator, just like everyone else on that stage.
So
she's not a victim. She's not powerless. She doesn't not know how to say no, or he's not using her power over her. Where's the dynamic of the Me Too or the Believe Women? And look, if you want to bring this up, fine, let's go over the record. When has Sanders ever lied? He hasn't. When has Warren? Well, there's the Native American background. There's the parents eloping because it was so forbidden, except they had an ad out in the paper about it. Then there's stuff about where she practiced law, then her pregnancy stuff. Sorry, it's not our fault if there's a candidate who's a woman who has an honesty issue. Like, sometimes things are fall into tropes, but that doesn't mean that they're not true.
Well,
and of course,
I think the power dynamic is really important. Like, for the people who, are in the back of the class and are having trouble understanding this one, the reason that the tendency is, or what we believe, you should believe women in a situation of sexual assault, because coming out and telling these stories doesn't benefit the women. Usually your reputation gets dragged through the mud. The courts don't believe you. It's a horrific experience. So if a woman has the courage to come forward and say, this happened to me, you err on the side of believing her, because there's nothing to gain from the situation. On the other hand, Elizabeth Warren has everything to gain from this situation. The incentives are completely reversed. So that, Chris Cuomo, is why this is a very different situation.
I should just let you guys, you guys are making the conservative case here all day. It's wonderful. But, it's really fun. I've been saying this for 2 years.
I think the reason that Crystal and I care about it so much is because we do believe in the Believe Women as the default in cases of sexual assault, because, as Crystal said, it's so decentivized, and you have to go through so many hoops, and it's so stigmatizing that, and it's so hard in the court of law to prove it for various reasons, because people don't come forward. So that's a compensatory mechanism. Now, of course, that doesn't mean look, women are rational beings. They're complex beings. They're as good and bad as men are. And so we do have to ultimately remember that. But again, as the default, I say, yes, believe women.
Right.
This is not built for that, though. This is not a case where you have to believe women. There's no risk, as Crystal was saying, that Warren was taking. And if anything, there was a benefit to it. But it cheapens.
Here's the other thing, too, is like, now we're not even allowed to talk about sexism. Because if you talk about real sexism in politics, which, having run for office, I can tell you is a real thing. Now you're implying a woman can't win, and you're a sexist for implying that, when there were many, many, many feminists who talked openly after Hillary Clinton lost about sexism. Are they now also canceled along with Bernie Sanders? It's just ridiculous. But I need your help with something else, Katie.
We all know.
Yes.
I need your help with something else here.
But can
you have to absolve me.
I'll absolve you. I'll absolve you.
Katie, we need you to absolve Crystal, because Maya Contreras, who is somebody I'd never heard of, she basically tweeted and then deleted an accusation against Crystal and against Michael Moore that they are sexists, they are anti-Semites and crypto-Nazis, by using the phrase stabbed in the back to describe the Warren-Bernie feud, making sure to educate everybody that stabbed in the back is the same anti-Semitic myth that the Nazis used in order to blame Jews during World War II. Kind of a mystifying moral equivalence that this person has chosen to draw.
By defending the Jewish candidate in the race.
I tried to point this out to her, that I was like, I understand that it's hard to keep up with Elizabeth Warren's ethnic background, but she's not the Jewish one. Bernie Sanders is. So while I'm touched that you're so sensitive to this anti-Semitic trope, which is there, you're not applying it correctly. And by the way, just speaking of Sanders and Jewish stuff, can I just say, did you see that the media said to him, like, what did you say to Warren in that exchange? What did you talk about? He's like, the weather.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? No. For anyone who ever accuses him of being a fake Jew, I'm like, just play that clip. And I say, this is Jew. But and it's so funny, because there's such a double standard. There's such hypocrisy, because any trope, this is such a great example of it. You take it to its most illogical extension, and you're actually having someone saying that it's problematic for people who are criticizing the person running against the Jew to compare her, to say anything about stabbing him in the back.
Right.
But I've never heard these people complain when people say Sanders stabbed stabbed Hillary in the back. I never hear people complain when Joyanne Reid talks about Sanders being like their cheap college roommate who stays on your couch for free. None of these anti-Semitic tropes are problematic at all.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and the
Yeah, there
image
you go.
of Bernie Sanders, Politico had a thing about him fundraising and doing really well, and his hands were like this. Or no, there was the Washington Post, I think. He's like this about his fundraising numbers, Politico about the house, the 3 houses, the money tree. I mean, it's anti-Semitic stuff up the. And what's so dangerous is that we really can't. I spend a lot of my time trying to call out that hypocrisy, but we need to call out the hypocrisy of the weaponization of identity politics while also remembering to talk about the issues. And I sometimes get so like infuriated that I want to expose the hypocrisy. Or I'm like, if that's sexist, then this is anti-Semitic. But it is true. I mean, this woman, why does she think a Jew can't win? I mean, and also let's be real. Sanders asked Warren to run. He wanted her to run. He entered the race because she wouldn't. He has said since the 80s that a woman could and would become president. Since Hillary lost, he's pointed out time after time again that Hillary won the popular vote. I'm sure what happened is Warren said something to him, and he's like, you know, you're going to face a lot. You know, a woman's going to get a lot of shit. A lot of shish. Sorry about that. Right. A lot of stuff.
It's all right.
You know, it's going to be hard. Like, I'm sure that's what he was saying. He was speaking about the realistic way that, like, everything will be. Now, look, if I had been.
About the reality of sexism, which is a real thing, and we're supposed to talk about.
Right. I mean, there are people who are really mad about this, and I don't think he said that. I really don't think he'd be like, Elizabeth, look, a woman can't win. He didn't say that. I'm sure he didn't say that. But there are people who will say a Jew can't win, and that's okay, but you can't say a woman can't win. Now, I don't think it's the case that either one can't win. I think that there are different candidates, and they overcome different stigmas and everything. But, yeah, it's really, and the way she's like, I think you just called me a liar on national television.
Right.
Yeah. You called him a liar first, so you want him to, like, it was so entitled.
You called him a liar and a sexist,
Right.
and now you expect him to not defend himself.
Well, that's what it is. All
what
right.
a week, Katie.
Yeah.
What a week. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. All right, we'll have more for you after this.